Someone needs to send help.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I prefaced what I was going to do at the beginning of this episode. I was going to make ill-timed comments and loosely affiliated anecdotes. To me, it sounds like magic. You're telling me right now that this battery doesn't exist, can't do anything until I peel the label off of it, and now this thing's alive, doing its job.
I mean, alive feels like a stretch.
Welcome to the Ask an Audiologist podcast, real audiology white papers written by real audiologists and explained to you by a real audiologist and a guy who isn't. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Ali Tressiter and Kevin Ziener.
Back for another round of everyone's favorite weekly audiology podcast. I'm Kevin Ziener.
I'm Dr. Ali Tressiter.
And this is the Ask an Audiologist podcast. On this episode, with help from the article written by Dr. Dusty Jessen of Columbine Hearing Care, we are going to discuss how to extend the life of hearing aid batteries. And by we, I mean Dr. Ali will explain, and I'll add the occasional ill-timed comment or loosely affiliated anecdote. What do you say?
Oh, so you're going to do what you always do?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent.
Dr. Ali,
consistency.
Explain to us the importance of batteries and extending the life of the aforementioned batteries in your hearing aids.
Yes. So
it's like I set you up every time. It's like
really
we've done this
wow.
before.
I mean, you're very skilled.
Thank you.
So let's separate it out into traditional batteries. So the ones that you have to put into the hearing aid usually once a week, and then rechargeable.
Okay.
So if we loop them, group them together to preserve the life of just batteries in general for hearing aids, the thing that's going to draw the most power is streaming. So if you're streaming a lot of YouTube videos, if you're streaming a lot of phone calls, that's going to have a huge battery drain, whether it's rechargeable or whether it's a traditional battery.
Okay.
So
it's a very like 2023 problem.
Super first world.
People in the 70s like, what are you talking about right now? And like, well, you know, I mean, if you have your phone out, if you've got your TV on, if you're making phone calls, if you've got kids bopping on the background that you don't want to listen to, so you're listening to your favorite music, that's what's going to really drain your battery life.
Yes.
They're like, well, my hearing aid used to have to be attached to my back and then hooked on my belt loop to stick into my ear.
Hey, that is true.
Was that really?
Yeah, they've had all sorts of different. There's like a body worn aid that it literally was something that was worn, and then it.
Maybe I've seen that somewhere. I guess.
I'm sure.
I just thought I was trying to be like overly dramatic.
No, that was real.
Okay,
that was real. Yeah. So streaming. So my suggestion there would be like, say you're home alone, or you know, people are around you, wouldn't be bothered if you listen to whatever's coming from your phone, like a YouTube video. If you listen to it through the phone versus streaming straight to your hearing aids, that's going to preserve battery life, which is will. But if we separate them out, right, and look at traditional batteries, there's a lot more you can really do there to preserve battery life. So very first thing, when you look at traditional batteries and you buy them, you'll notice they all come with a sticker on them, right? And so they're called zinc-air batteries, meaning...
Zinc-air batteries.
Zinc-air batteries.
What does that mean?
It means they charge when they're exposed to air. So when you take the sticker off, the air is actually what essentially makes the battery turn on,
Pop
so
up,
to speak.
Come alive.
Yeah.
Are the batteries a real boy like Pinocchio? Like somebody has to do a quick wish on the battery and then the battery becomes sentient? That's what this reminds me of, Pinocchio.
Someone needs to send help.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I prefaced what I was going to do at the beginning of this episode. I was going to make ill-timed comments and loosely affiliated anecdotes. To me, it sounds like magic.
10 out of 10.
You're telling me right now that this battery doesn't exist, can't do anything until I peel the label off of it, and now this thing's alive, doing its job.
I mean, alive feels like a stretch.
This thing can order me Uber Eats now.
Yeah. Okay, send help.
Okay.
Please.
Crazy that's how that works, by the way. Mind absolutely blown.
So I say that to say when you take that sticker off, obviously it kind of makes the battery work for you.
Okay.
Don't take that battery or the sticker off until you're ready to use it, because that's what essentially charges the battery up. Once you take the sticker off, it will slowly lose power over time.
Got it.
Right? So that's the very first thing. Second thing, do not put a bunch of batteries together into a plastic bag. So they come in these nice little nice little packages that they're always separated out so they're never touching.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will say like, I just want a bunch in my bag in a really small container, and they'll put them all together. So if they're all touching each other, you're going to kill all the batteries.
What's happening? It's like Arrested Development, no touching.
It's kind of like Fight Club. They all get together in the bag and they duke it out and everyone dies.
Let's get back to my comment about them being sentient. Batteries do well by themselves.
Yes.
In Gen Pop, it's not good. You got to keep them separated from one another.
For sure. That, as far as the sticker is concerned and putting the batteries together, that's one thing.
Okay.
Do not store them in moist areas. So a lot of people will store them in the bathroom because it's just part of their morning routine, right? It's by everything else they use to get ready. But the problem is the bathroom usually also has a shower.
Yeah.
And so if that's where you're showering and there's moisture in the air, the moisture in the air actually will decrease the life of the batteries. And that goes for your rechargeables as well. You really don't want to keep those in a moist environment. It's really just good practice.
So worst case scenario is that you're in a humid bathroom with multiple batteries in your pocket. Those things are dead in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be worst case.
So then obviously we know what not to do with batteries. What should we do to extend the life of these one-time use batteries?
The opposite of everything I just said.
Got it.
So
here's what you want to do. Keep batteries so far away from each other. They're not even aware that other batteries exist in this world.
They should be in different postcodes, for sure.
One battery per state. That's my rule. The other rule is don't shower ever. Never shower again. When you've been diagnosed with hearing loss, understand that you will be filthy forever.
But also know this is going to take us back to our earwax episode.
Yep.
That if you don't shower, earwax is probably imminent in your life.
Especially if you're eating a lot of Snickers bars.
Yeah, I mean, that's where...
Not showering, eating Snickers bars, but you have phenomenal hearing aid battery life.
Yes, so keep them dry.
Okay.
Keep them apart from each other. Reduce streaming unless it's absolutely necessary.
Like what's the general time frame? Like if I put a new battery in and I'm not overly streaming and I'm very mindful about not putting other batteries together and it doesn't even go into the bathroom, it's on my nightstand, right?
Right.
What's the actual length of time my battery should last me?
So it is 100% dependent on the type and size of hearing aid you have and the extent of your hearing loss.
Okay.
So the louder we have to turn up a hearing aid, the more power it needs. And
Makes sense.
Usually people who need a lot of power will drain their batteries more.
Okay.
But that's why a lot of the time you'll see the more powerful hearing aids have larger batteries.
Got it.
And so in the same token, those hearing aids that go in your ear have really tiny batteries. And so a lot of the time, those will only last like 3 days. And that's with no streaming. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And so it really is dependent on that. So if battery life is a big concern for you, it's definitely important to have that conversation with your audiologist to make sure that the style of hearing aid that you select is going to give you the battery life that you need. But I will say, quick caveat,
Yes.
rechargeable hearing aids, which are what a lot of people are buying now, on the whole, they're going to have enough charge to carry you through the entire day, usually 16 to 20 hours, regardless of how much you're streaming.
Got it.
It varies, but on the whole, broad strokes.
So, I mean, I think we've talked about rechargeables before. They make sense to me. Obviously, batteries, depending on hearing loss and the type of hearing aid that you have, that is an option for a lot of people too. On hand, as an audiologist making a recommendation, how many batteries should you keep at all times, being mindful that they're not all together?
As long as they're separated.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if you're going home each night, right? I mean, just having 2 spares, or honestly, they come in little packs of 6 usually.
Okay.
Just bring one of the little packs. But if you're someone who travels a lot, like you or myself, you might want a couple more. It really depends on how much you're away from the house.
Got it.
Right.
Last question. Well, maybe. I never know how many questions I want to
You
ask.
just never know.
Can it be too dry for batteries? Like if I'm like in an overly arid climate, is that bad?
That's a great question. I've
imagine,
never seen anything saying that it is.
I imagine that like room temperatures where like battery creators, distributors would want things to be, they would say, stay away from humid and stay away from too dry. Cause like I can just envision 2 drive being like, well, it's going to crack the zinc or not let it move fast enough to be the magical component that it needs to be.
I've never seen that.
Okay.
I mean, the batteries are like made out of aluminum. I actually don't know what the outer case of a battery is.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
But no, I mean, I've never seen any research saying, because we live in a very dry climate.
Got it. We do.
It would be an issue. Was that your last question?
That was it. I mean, I feel like I would love to speak at length about hearing aids and hearing aid batteries, but I think it really just boils down to this. Keep them separated.
Gotta
Don't
keep
open
them
them
separated.
Exactly. Don't open them until you need them. Don't put them anywhere near or around water or humidity, and you should be good to go.
Yeah.
I love that.
Nice.
So now that you have more time and more money because you have properly learned how to maximize your hearing aid batteries, do us a favor and type on over to askanaudiologist.com and get those boosts up because they're directly linked to Dr. Anali and I, and they are not directly linked to Dr. Ali and I, but we want them to be directly linked to Dr. Ali and I.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Not at all, but we'll go with it.
Me neither. But honestly, neither did this discussion, so that checks out.
Neat.
Dr. Ali, as always, it's been a pleasure.
Right back at you, Kev.
See you guys next week.
You can find more information at askanaudiologist.com, and you can follow us on all our social channels at Ask an Audiologist. The information provided on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice.